Welcome back to the shop. All right, guys, we have a little bit of an update. So many of you may be wondering why I haven't posted a video in so long. It's not because I haven't been doing anything. It's because, well, life. So let's back up here a little bit. Back in May, had just come back from my annual trek to Ceph. And had a great time, posted a couple of videos about going to Ceph, and it was awesome. Had a great time, was getting ready for flying season, going to a bunch of different events, and then like a week later, I got let go from my job. So the reason I haven't been posting videos is because I've been taking care of job hunting and providing for my family. So there you go. I haven't been making content because I've been taking care of my family. So being perfectly transparent here. That being said, I have a new job, haven't started the new job, but I have started a new project. Segue to Republic RC-3 Seabee. The Republic RC-3 Seabee is an interesting recreational aircraft from the 1940s, post-World War II by the Republic Aircraft Company. Really cool amphibious airplane. It's like the Icon A5 of the post-war era. It's really kind of cool. That being said, a little bit of family history around that. My wife's mother, her father, so my mother-in-law's father, he flew one of these. It was pretty cool. I'm still trying to get a photograph of it, so I'll let you guys in on the photograph whenever I come across it. I know it exists, but have yet to find it. But I've always wanted to build this airplane because, number one, it looks really, really interesting. It's a recreational aircraft, so it's like civilian. It's not a warplane. But being amphibious is kind of cool, right? I've built one of these kinds of airplanes before, the Sikorsky S-39, all right? So, okay, keep in mind that I have never intentionally built a float plane. For good reason. I don't have anywhere to float fly around my area. I don't. We have tons of man-made lakes, but by lake, they're more like ponds. And by pond, I mean like infested with a lot of waterfowl, which is pretty foul. To do some wordplay, all right? So they're not great places to fly. And so I've just they're always around something residential, right? Or trees. We have tons of trees here that are really old, big trees. So there's just nowhere to fly. That being said, amphibious airplanes are kind of the solution rather than rehashing the old Sikorsky project or going back to the Seamaster 2. So the Seamaster 2 I built. It's a seaplane, but I built it to fly off of snow. So I didn't build it intentionally to be watertight. It was just sort of like, well, water resistant is good enough for that airplane. Took it to Ceph a couple years ago. Didn't work out so well. Ended up having to replace a servo. Almost lost the plane like 3 times. So not a seaworthy airplane. This airplane is designed and being built to be seaworthy. Again, old plans. The plans are by Tom Mountjoy and inked by Dick Kidd. These are old plans, all right? Got them off of Outer Zone, but it's 51-inch span, and so like 4 or 5 pound all up weight. All right, it's not gonna be a rocket ship, although I am gonna run this 950 kV motor on 4S because it's only spinning an 8-inch prop. Because, yeah, we don't have much clearance down there to get a bigger prop. So that is the plan. We've got a 45 amp speed controller, of course, from BuddyRC. Love these ZTW ESCs. This is just an old tack-on motor I had laying in the drawer. It'll work just fine. Might have to replace the bearings, but other than that, we're using a cheapo Radio Master receiver. But we've got all the Dubro goodies, of course. We've got the laser rods run up through the tail end of the fuselage, and had some pretty good arms already, but we'll use some nice clevises here to terminate. We've got Dubro wheels. As you can see, these are fabricated. I ended up doing some basic soldering here. It's just 2 bent wires. So you bend wires according to the plan. You install them in the fuselage. You wrap some copper wire around it, put some flux on it, heat it up, apply some solder, you're done. Do yourself a favor and use mechanical solder. Don't use electrical solder. You will regret it because it won't work. That being said, also, cleanup is really cool if you use ketchup. I say that every time I do this kind of mechanical soldering. Ketchup cleans up. It's amazing because a little bit of acid will eat all the gross stuff up and it becomes nice and shiny again. All right, so moving on, we have little 2.25 inch Dubro low bounce wheels. They are awesome. They will last forever. And we've also got the micro Dubro tail wheel assembly. So that actually does screw on, but I'm sheeting this. So let's get into the construction of the model itself. We've got the hardware. Shout out to Dubro. Also, make sure you get in on 10% off of your Dubro order. Use code JOSH10 at checkout at dubro.com. Those guys are awesome. And those who have been using my code, you've been killing it. Thank you so much for supporting this hobby. It's great to see people building. Moving on. So we have the basic construction. Okay, you build these airplanes. Never built one officially for water, so I'm learning as I go. You build it first from the keel, all right? So you build this keel out of plywood, and this is hard basswood up here. So you build that per the plans, and then you take all of these formers and you put them in, and then you use the ply floor for the servos. The servos originally were supposed to be in a cutout here. I moved them aft because I'm using smaller servos with metal gears that did not really exist back when this was first designed. More than enough torque, and this area here is able to accommodate a 4,000 milliamp hour 4-cell if I need the nose weight. All right, my intention is to use a 2200. Should be more than enough flight time. But if I need the nose weight, I can use a 4000. All right, moving on from there, after you get each one of these formers in place, the wood doesn't exactly stay. It's thin ply. It's going to kind of bend and curl, especially when you cut out all of these massive gaping holes. So then you put in the stringers, and I was using my small square to make sure that everything was square off of the ply floor plate. All right. So then once you have the stringers done, all right, so then the stringers are done, then I built the tail. So I originally only had, former, tail former, and then using these as well. These are ply, so that once you sheet over top of this, these are going to be nice and strong for you to hold that structure. But then you build out the tail, the vertical, using the forms. Easy stuff to cut out and sand to shape. Quick sand, there it is. The Dubro quick sand hand sander makes easy work of this when you're using a very low grit count. Keep that on hand at all times here. So then once you have all of your stuff shaped and strung, this started out as 2 blocks of balsa here. So see, I made 2 chunks and glued them together and shaped it, shaved it with a hand planer. That's one of my 3D printed ones, and that is then sanded roughly to shape. I did roughly to shape first, and then from there I started making the hatch, right? So originally the hatch was supposed to be just up here on this portion, but I thought for loading a larger battery in and out of this airplane, I'm gonna need more than that to get my hand in and out of this airplane. So I decided to just make that whole top portion removable, and then put in my Velcro. There's a piece of ply here that holds down the front part of the nose, and it's literally just a friction fit. There's a locator dowel, and then you just push it on, and because of the frame, everything just slips into position. There's no magnets. Super simple. don't have to worry about anything. And then from there, once I had all of the framework done on the fuselage, that's when I started doing sheet work. Sheet work is as much of an art as it is a skill. The best advice that I can give anybody if you're starting on sheet work is start with small pieces. It may look uglier when you're done, but if you sand it smooth, nobody will know the difference once you put paint on it, okay? Single pieces make less work in some ways, more work in others. So it's kind of a balance on what you need to do. So that's why I say play with it. My best advice to anybody is to just play with it. But there are a few key things that you need to remember. And number one is always have window cleaner on hand. The soap, the mild detergent, and the ammonia helps to soften the balsa fibers and allows you to mold to curves a lot better. And let me show you what I mean. So this is 1/16 inch balsa, and this is a single piece of wood bent like that. Okay, but there's all sorts of compound curves going on here. So I soaked it. I just sprayed it and soaked it until it was nice and bendy. But I've got here, I'll use this piece. I'll show you just how far this will bend dry. There we go. See, it'll bend here and then it'll just snap. So to get that kind of radius, you have to soak it with something to soften it up. Otherwise, you're just going to keep kicking yourself, or you're going to have to do insert planking, and nobody wants to do insert planking. So then what I just did this place to get the hard part out of the way, because I knew that that was going to be difficult. And then I started moving on to the bottom. The bottom is done in two main pieces. And then planning ahead, I wanted to do just some simple sheet work here. So then I put on these nose pieces to cover up this cavity here, and you can see what that looks like on the inside. All right. Do some rough sand shaping. I'll do some final sanding once we've got everything down. But that's how I started. Started the front, did all of this, sanded the step so that was nice and sharp, and then I moved on to the bottom. So as you can see, here's the hard ply mount for the tail gear, and each one of these sheets was put on and then again soaked in a lot of the window cleaner, and it's just wrapped around very nicely to make this really nice compound curve shape. The top, I wanted to show you, was also done in one piece. This is actually one piece. I didn't have enough meat here, so I just glued on a piece of scrap before I bent it and wrapped it around this surface, because making this junction is going to be a lot easier to do if this is just existing already. All right. And then moving on aft from there, doing this top portion will be easy to do on its own, where I don't have to deal with any of this seam. So I will put in a separate piece of wood here, and that way I can just sheet everything forward. All right, we've got some windows to put in. You can, yeah, here we go. We've got some windows to put in. Ooh, glare. Goodness, glossy paper. Some windows to put in as well. The wing is really straightforward. Here's the wing plan. It's just a standard Hershey bar wing. We're going to do individual servos in the wings because that's honestly the simplest solution these days, because servos are so stinking cheap. And these servos are tiny. They're like 9-gram servos, but they're Metal Gear and they have enough torque for this size and speed of airplane. Should be no problem. The water rudder, I did deviate from the plan slightly. It said to just have a stem go down. I did do an L bend here. It's in a piece of balsa and then sandwiched with 1/32 inch plywood. Yeah, plywood. And then I fiberglassed it and put some primer on it just to make sure that it's as waterproof as I possibly can. Again, going into water. The last thing I want to mention is bellows. The one thing I picked up at CEF from the guys on the lake, frankly, the Virginia delegation, is a bunch of very resourceful guys. So I picked up on they were doing boat stuff, that they have these like bellows. Okay, so I'm going to use these at the termination points both inside and outside of the airplane to try to minimize as much water ingress as possible. It's just a plan. I'm going to see if it works. It doesn't call for it in the plans, but having done enough home repairs, water will find a way no matter what. So I'm going to do my best to try to mitigate it. Getting some, at least zip ties on. I don't think I'll need any like silicone, maybe put some marine grease in there or something. I don't know. We'll see. It's an experiment. It's having fun. But yeah, so next is to just try to keep sheeting the fuselage, get the rest of the fuselage sheeted using the same techniques I've described. It's not difficult. It's just tedious. The whole thing gets skinned, and then it will be covered in fiberglass, and then it will get painted. It'll be great. It'll be great. And to clarify, I did go to another event. I did crash 2 planes. Comment below which planes you think I crashed. All right. One is probably easy to guess. Anyway, so thanks so much, guys, for watching. Again, head on over to Dubro, and don't let anything get you down, including loss of job or difficulty in life. Keep working on your flying works of art.